The gun shook in Jane's hands, trembling so violently she could barely hold it. Through the panic room monitor, she watched Jung fight for his life against a dozen armed men. Blood, gunfire, chaos. And all she could think was that this was her fault. She had brought this war to his doorstep. If anyone thought the first part of her story was intense, they hadn't seen anything yet. Because the Korean Mafia boss who saved her, she was about to be the one who had to save him. The gates to Jung's family estate were enormous, 15 feet of solid iron, security cameras tracking every movement. As the car drove through, Jane counted at least 6 armed guards just at the entrance. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. "What is this place?" she whispered. "My family's estate," Jung said quietly. "You'll be safe here." Safe. The word felt like a cruel joke. 3 hours ago, someone had spray-painted a death threat on her bedroom wall. Now she was being taken into what looked like a military compound disguised as a luxury mansion. When the car stopped, Jung reached for her hand, squeezing gently. "I know this is overwhelming, but I promise no one will hurt you here." She wanted to believe him. God, she did. Inside, the estate was breathtaking and terrifying all at once. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, priceless art. But everywhere she looked, there were security monitors and armed men. The air itself felt tense. Jung led her through the hall, and she felt like she'd stepped into a movie, except this wasn't fiction. This was her life now. "You'll stay here until this is resolved," he said. Something in Jane snapped. Fear, confusion, stress, it all spilled out at once. "I didn't ask for any of this. I slept with you one time, and now someone wants me dead." Jung grabbed her shoulders, not roughly, but firm enough to pull her back into focus. His dark eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "And that one time made you a target," he said, voice low and pained. "I never wanted this for you. But I will keep you safe." "How can you promise that when?" "Because I won't let them touch you. Do you understand me, Jane? No one will hurt you while I'm breathing." Before she could reply, an older Korean woman appeared. Elegant, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes. "Mrs. Kim," Jung said. "This is Jane. Please show her to the guest suite." Mrs. Kim bowed slightly and guided Jane away. Jung watched her go, eyes softening for a moment before he turned and strode down the hall, with 2 guards following. The guest suite was bigger than Jane's entire apartment. Luxurious, pristine, overwhelming. But to her, it felt like a cage. A beautiful one, but a cage nonetheless. Her phone was missing. Jung must have taken it. "Security risk," she imagined him saying. She couldn't sleep, so at 2 in the morning, she crept downstairs. She found Jung in a high-tech office, surrounded by screens showing the estate from every angle. He spoke rapid Korean into the phone, cold and commanding, nothing like the tender version of him she'd seen earlier. When he noticed her, he ended the call immediately. "You should be resting," he said. "I want answers," Jane demanded. "If I'm in danger, I deserve to know why." Jung dismissed the 2 men in the room and gestured for her to sit. He looked exhausted, like the weight of everything he carried was finally catching up to him. He explained how his grandfather built the Kong Empire using legitimate businesses, but eventually made deals with dangerous people. His father tried to straighten everything out, but the stress consumed him, leaving him incapacitated. And now the business had fallen on Jung. Jane listened, heart aching as he spoke of corruption, violence, and betrayal. His uncle, Dong-ho, he explained, wanted to keep the criminal empire alive. Jung had cut him off from family accounts and stripped him of his position. He thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Jung pulled up surveillance footage of Jane, walking to work, going to the gym, entering her friend's apartment. Days of being watched. "Dong-ho's men have been watching you for over a week," Jung said quietly, "since our first dinner." Jane felt sick. Violated. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I had my men protecting you. I thought I could handle this without scaring you." "Well, I'm scared now," she shouted. Someone threatened to kill me. They destroyed my room. And you knew I was being watched? I was trying to protect you. By keeping me in the dark? Jung stepped forward and held her arms gently but firmly. You're right. I should have told you. But the moment he realized you mattered to me, you became a target. You barely know me, she whispered. His gaze deepened, burning through her defenses. I know enough. You're the first person in years who made me want something other than this life. When I'm with you, I can breathe. And I swear, I would burn this entire city before I let anyone hurt you. The intensity of his words made her knees weak. What are you going to do? She asked softly. Jung's expression hardened into something deadly. I'm going to end this. Permanently. The first morning at the estate, Jane woke up disoriented and alone. Sunlight streamed through the enormous windows, and for a moment she forgot where she was. Then reality slammed back into her chest. She was a prisoner in a mansion. A very luxurious, very well-guarded prisoner, but a prisoner all the same. She wandered the estate grounds, or at least the areas she was allowed to see. Manicured gardens that looked like magazine covers, an Olympic-sized pool, a gym that felt like a professional training center. Everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect. Everything was locked down. Guards manned every hall, every door, every pathway, watching her, tracking her, containing her. When she tried to approach the front gate, a guard stopped her with a firm, polite wall of muscle. I'm sorry, Miss Chen. Mr. Kang's orders. No one leaves without permission. I'm not a guest, she muttered. I'm a hostage. The guard didn't react. For your protection, miss. She returned inside, feeling the cage tighten around her ribs. Mrs. Kim found her in the kitchen, staring at a breakfast she couldn't bring herself to touch. The older woman placed a cup of tea in front of her and gave her a gentle, empathetic look. How long have you worked for the Kong family? Jane asked softly. 23 years, Mrs. Kim replied. I raised Mr. Jung after his mother became ill. Is he always like this? Jane asked. So, controlling? Mrs. Kim's expression softened. He protects in the only way he knows. In his world, love is a weakness. Something to hide. Something to guard. He has never brought a woman here before. You must be very special. The word love hung in the air like a shadow neither of them touched again. Days blurred into one another. Jane had no phone, no internet, no connections to the outside world. Jung had already handled her job. She was on extended leave. Another choice made for her. Another cage disguised as kindness. She only saw him in the evenings, and even then, hardly at all. He was constantly in meetings or issuing orders, surrounded by men with guns and security monitors showing threats she didn't understand. His world was unfolding behind closed doors. Danger, tension, violence. On the fourth night, she'd had enough. She found him in his office, tie loosened, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. I need my phone, she said from the doorway. I need to tell my job something. I need to tell Monica I'm okay. I already handled your work situation. Jung cut in without looking up. And I've been updating Monica. She knows you're safe. You can't just control my entire life. Jung's head snapped up. His eyes were sharp despite the fatigue. I'm keeping you alive, Jane. There's a difference. Is there? She stepped inside. Because right now, I'm trapped in a house I can't leave, cut off from everyone I love, and I don't get a say in anything. That sounded a lot like control. Tension rippled through him as he stood. Would you rather I let you walk out that gate? Back to your apartment where Dong Ho's men can grab you? Back to a phone that can be traced? Back to being an easy target? I want my life back. You can't have it. His voice rose to match hers. Not until this is over. Not until you're safe. They stood there, both breathing hard, fury and fear knotting between them. Beneath all the anger was something fragile but unmistakable, how much he cared for her and how much she feared what caring for him would cost. I'm going for a swim, she whispered, turning away. Jane, just leave me alone. The water was warm, soothing. She swam until her muscles burned, trying to drown her thoughts. But thoughts were all she had left. She was falling for Jung. Against every ounce of logic, against every single warning sign, she was falling. But the world he lived in, the danger, the suffocating protection, she didn't know if she could survive it. May I join you? Jane turned to find Jung standing at the edge of the pool, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up. He looked wrecked.
Human. Real.
She nodded. He dove in, and for a while they swam in silence, separated by nothing but water and everything that terrified them. Eventually, Jung drifted closer, treading water near her. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For all of this. You're right. I've been controlling everything, but I don't know how else to protect someone. Control is the only form of safety I was taught. The honesty cracked something inside her anger. She moved to the pool steps with him, settling into the shallow water, listening as he talked. Really talked. He told her about growing up in that mansion, watching his father break under the pressure of the criminal legacy, about his mother's stroke, about wanting to be an architect, to build something beautiful instead of managing an empire built on secrets and violence. I never wanted this life, he murmured. I wanted to draw blueprints, build things that last. It's not too late, Jane said, after this is over. Men like me don't get after, he said softly. Just different versions of during. That's depressing. That's reality. She moved closer, water rippling between them. What if you didn't have to go back? What if you could walk away? Jung stared at her, something raw flickering in his eyes. What if you didn't have to go back either? What are you saying? He edged closer, heart pounding just beneath the surface. Stay with me, he whispered. Not like this. Not as a prisoner.
But by choice.
Build something new with me. Jung, you're asking me to give up everything for a man I barely know. Yes. No hesitation. Because I've never felt this way. You make me want to be better. To deserve a life beyond this house. They were inches apart now. He reached up and cupped her face, water dripping down his arm. Tell me you don't feel this too. She couldn't, because she did. Every terrifying, impossible part of it. Just as she leaned in, just as his lips brushed the space between them, a guard sprinted out of the house. Mr. Kong. Sir, we have a situation. Jung's jaw clenched as the moment shattered. What is it? His voice dropped into lethal calm. Breach on the north wall. Multiple contacts. They're coming. Jung shot out of the pool, water streaming off him. He turned to Jane, fierce and focused. Get inside. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Jung, what's? Now, Jane, he was gone before she could respond, sprinting toward the estate with guards rushing around him. And then she heard it. Gunshots. Distant at first. Then closer. They had found them. Jane ran barefoot across the wet stone, her swimsuit clinging to her skin, and a towel barely hanging around her shoulders. Gunshots cracked through the air, sharp bursts that made her flinch with every step. She reached the house just as Mrs. Kim threw open the door, her normally calm face pale but composed. This way, quickly. Jane stumbled inside. Glass shattered somewhere deeper in the mansion. Men screamed. More gunfire followed, louder, closer, violent. What's happening? She gasped, her voice trembling.
Dong Ho's men.
They breached the wall, Mrs. Kim said, pushing her toward the stairs. Your room. Lock the door. An explosion rocked the house. Jane screamed as the floor trembled. Mrs. Kim grabbed her arm to steady her. Then Jung appeared, like a shadow pulled from smoke, gun in hand, shirt soaked with blood that Jane prayed wasn't his. Change of plans, he said, voice low and steady despite everything. We're moving. He seized her hand, pulling her down hallways she didn't recognize. Guards rushed past them, shouting orders in Korean, firing back toward the chaos behind them. They burst into a library lined with tall shelves. Jung moved straight to one, pressed a hidden switch, and the entire shelf clicked and swung inward to reveal a reinforced room. A panic room. Get in, he ordered, pushing her toward it.
What?
No, Jung, tell me what's. Dong Ho brought an army, he said, checking the magazines on his gun. You'll be safe here. The walls are reinforced steel. And where are you going? To end this. He began closing the door. Jane grabbed his arm, desperate. Don't leave me. Jung, please. He kissed her, hard, quick, almost violent in its urgency. When he pulled back, his eyes were on fire. I will come back for you. I promise. He gently freed himself from her grip. There's a gun in the drawer. Don't open the door for anyone but me. Tears blurred her vision as he whispered, I love you, Jane. Then the heavy steel door sealed shut, leaving her in suffocating darkness. She stood still, shaking, until red emergency lights flickered on. The room was small, 10 feet square, a cot, supplies, and a wall of monitors. She switched them on. The feeds sprang to life. The estate had become a battlefield. Jung's men fought in the gardens, the halls, the open courtyard. Muzzle flashes lit the night, bodies fell, and shadows moved with lethal intent. Then she found him on a monitor. Jung moved like a force of nature, precise, merciless. His face was cold as he took down enemy after enemy. This wasn't the man who told her about blueprints and quiet dreams. This was the heir of a criminal empire, trained for war. Instead of fear, a strange, desperate relief filled her. He had to be this dangerous to survive, to come back to her. Minutes dragged into eternity. She tracked him from camera to camera, panicking every time he slipped out of sight. Then something else caught her eye. A man, one of Dong Ho's, moving alone, weaving through the house with clear purpose. Heading for the library. Heading for her. Her blood turned to ice. On the monitor, she watched him search the shelves. He pressed something. The bookshelf began to open. Her breath hitched violently. She scrambled for the drawer Jung mentioned. Inside, her shaking hand found cold metal. A gun. She'd never held one before. But she raised it, trembling so hard she could barely aim at the widening crack of light. The door swung open fully. Jung stood there, covered in blood, gun raised. Her knees buckled. The gun slipped from her hands as she collapsed into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. He held her, whispering softly in Korean, a soothing tone she didn't need translated. Safe. She was safe. Did you? The words stuck in her throat. They're gone, Jung murmured. It's over. Did you kill them? He looked at her then, really looked, and she had her answer. Some truths lived in the eyes, not the mouth. Mrs. Kim rushed in with medical supplies. That's when Jane noticed the blood on Jung's shoulder wasn't from someone else. You're hurt, she said, panic rising. It's nothing. It's not nothing. She snatched the supplies from Mrs. Kim. Sit down. Shockingly, Jung obeyed. She cleaned the graze on his shoulder with trembling hands, focusing on each step to keep herself from breaking apart. You surprise me, Jung said quietly.
How?
Most people would be hysterical. You're strong. Jane gave a shaky laugh. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Strength isn't the absence of fear. He placed his hand gently over hers. It's acting despite it. You were brave. I almost shot you, she whispered. But you didn't. You waited. You stayed calm. He stood, grimacing slightly. Come on. Let's get out of this room. Later, in his office, once she'd changed and the shaking had finally slowed, she asked the question she feared most. This isn't going to stop, is it? Jung stared at the security feeds, jaw tight. Not unless I stop Dong Ho permanently. What does that mean? It means, he said coldly, I have to prove I'm more dangerous than he is. That coming after me has consequences he cannot survive. Fear twisted inside her. And then what? You become the monster he thinks you are? Jung's expression darkened. Maybe I already am. Jane stepped close, cupping his face, forcing him to meet her eyes.
No.
A monster wouldn't have protected me, wouldn't give me choices, wouldn't look at me like this. He swallowed, something breaking in his gaze. I'm choosing to stay, she said. Not because I'm trapped. Not because I'm scared, but because I'm falling for you, Jung Kong. And that terrifies me more than any of this. His breath caught. He pulled her tightly against him, burying his face in her hair. I will keep you safe, he vowed. Whatever it takes. Even if I have to become the monster. Then I'll bring you back, she whispered. From whatever darkness you go into, I'll be your light. They held each other as the estate outside descended into cleanup, the bodies, the destruction, the aftermath of violence. And Jane understood something terrifying and undeniable. She meant every word she said. She would follow Jung Kong into any darkness. She would fight for him, stand with him, bring him back. Because despite the chaos, the danger, the blood, she loved him. God help her. She loved him. The next morning, Jung's entire security team assembled in a conference room Jane hadn't known existed. 20 men in dark suits sat around a long table, all looking deadly serious, all watching Jung as if he were a commanding general preparing them for war. Jane sat beside him, his hand resting possessively on her knee under the table. Lee, Jung's second-in-command, an intimidating man in his 40s with a scar that ran from his jaw to his collar, stood at the head of the table with maps and photos spread out in front of him. Dong Ho is hiding in one of his warehouses in the industrial district, Lee reported in English for Jane's benefit. Heavy security, at least 30 men. Getting to him will be difficult. Then we don't go to him, Jung said calmly. We make him come to us. Lee narrowed his eyes.
How?
Jung's grip on Jane's knee tightened. We use the one thing he wants most. Me, vulnerable. No, Jane said immediately, already sensing where this was heading. Whatever you're thinking, absolutely not. The room fell silent. No one ever told Jung Kong no, except her. Lee cleared his throat. Actually, Miss Chun, that isn't a terrible idea. Dong Ho knows you're important to Mr. Kong. If you appeared in public, seemingly unguarded. Absolutely not. Jung cut in, his voice cold. Find another way. There is no other way, Lee insisted. Dong Ho is in hiding. He won't come out unless he thinks he can land a killing blow. And his killing blow is her. Jung stood so abruptly his chair scraped backward. Everyone out.
Now.
The men obeyed instantly, leaving only Jung, Lee, and Jane in the room. I won't risk her, Jung said as soon as the door closed. You already are, Lee replied evenly. Every day she stays here, Dong Ho plans his next move. Last night proved he knows where she is. He'll keep coming. The only way to end this is to end him. He's right, Jane said softly. Both men turned toward her. Jane, no, Jung protested. He's right, she repeated. I can't live like this. Hiding, trapped, waiting for the next attack. If I can help end this, I want to. You don't understand what you're asking. I do. She stepped forward and placed her hands on his chest. I trust you. You said you'd protect me. So protect me, but let me help. Jung exchanged a long, tense look with Lee before turning back to her. There was anguish in his eyes. If anything happens to her, he warned Lee. It won't, Lee replied. We'll have men everywhere. The second Dong Ho makes a move, we'll have him. Jung closed his eyes, then sighed deeply. When he opened them again, he fixed his gaze on Jane. You're sure? I'm sure. Then we do this my way. Every precaution. Every safeguard. Lee nodded. Agreed. Jung pulled Jane into his arms, holding her tightly. Against her hair, he whispered, If this goes wrong, I will never forgive myself. Then don't let it go wrong, she whispered back. Over the next 3 days, Jung trained her. Self-defense basics, how to fall without injuring herself, how to run, where to hide, how to recognize a threat in a crowd. It was rough, exhausting, frightening, and strangely intimate. Again, Jung said as she practiced a defensive move. She executed it perfectly this time, using his momentum to pin him against the wall, her body pressed to his. Like that? She asked breathlessly. Jung's eyes darkened. Exactly like that. The tension between them snapped. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. Jung, she whispered. He kissed her hard, with hunger and desperation, as if he were memorizing her. When they finally broke apart, they were both panting. Promise me something, he said, pressing his forehead to hers. Anything. Promise that after this is over, you'll still be here, that you won't run from me from this life. I promise, she whispered, and she meant every word. At night, they ate dinner alone together. Jung opened up to her in ways she'd never expected. He spoke about his childhood, the suffocating pressure, the weight of the family business crushing his father until he became a shadow. He spoke about the future he once wanted. I never wanted this life, he admitted one night. I wanted to be an architect, build something beautiful instead of managing an empire built on blood. You still can, she said. After this. Start over. Build something new. Jung shook his head with quiet sadness. Men like me don't get after, Jane. We get different versions of during. That's not true. You can walk away. Can I? He reached across the table and took her hand. Even if I could, would you come with me? Could you love a man with my past? With my sins? I already do, she said softly. His breath caught. What? I love you, Jung Kong. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I do. His chair crashed to the floor as he stood. He crossed the space in 2 steps, grabbed her, and kissed her like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. I love you, he murmured against her lips. God, Jane, I love you so much. They made love that night, slow and intense, nothing like the first time. This time it was about choosing each other, claiming each other, promising something wordless and powerful. Afterward, tangled together under the moonlight, Jung traced patterns on her skin. When this is over, he said quietly, I'm going to take you somewhere. Anywhere you want. Italy, Paris, Tokyo, anywhere we can just be us. I'd like that, she whispered. And then I'm going to ask you properly. With a ring. With flowers. With. She placed a finger over his lips. Ask me now. He smiled sadly and shook his head. No. I'm going to do this right. After. When you're safe. When I'm not covered in blood and you're not running from gunfire. I'll court you properly. Meet your family. Build something real. We already have something real. Then let me make it official. The right way. He kissed her forehead. But remember this, you're mine, Jane Chen. And I'm yours. Nothing will change that. The day of the plan arrived too fast. Jane had barely slept, her stomach twisted in knots despite Jung's constant reassurances. He helped her get dressed, jeans, a simple blouse, comfortable shoes she could run in if things went wrong. His hands were gentle as he fastened a wire beneath her collar. I'll hear everything, he promised. Every word, every breath, and I'll be watching you from 3 different angles. I'm scared, she whispered. Jung cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. But Jane, his voice softened, I will not let anything happen to you. I would die before I let Dong Ho touch you. Don't say that. Then follow the plan. Stay where we can see you. And if anything feels wrong, you run. You run, and you don't look back. She nodded. They had chosen a busy outdoor shopping district, public enough to look normal, but controlled enough for Jung's men to hide in plain sight. Jane would walk, browse, have coffee. If Dong Ho took the bait and sent an extraction team, Jung's men would intervene, capture one alive, and force him to reveal Dong Ho's location. Jung drove her himself, his hand never leaving hers. 2 guards sat silently in the back seat. "Remember," he said as they neared the drop point, "you're just shopping. Normal Sunday. Don't look for threats. That gives you away. Just be you. And if something goes wrong, it won't," he murmured, though his clenched jaw betrayed his fear. Jane stepped out 2 blocks away and immediately felt exposed, as if a giant target had been painted on her back. "I see you," Jung said calmly through the earpiece. "You're doing great." She walked through the mall, past boutiques, past cafes, doing everything she could to look casual. She tried not to notice the guards on rooftops or the men pretending to be shoppers. 20 minutes passed. Nothing. She stopped at a cafe, ordered a coffee, sat outside. Pretended to scroll on her phone. Still nothing. Jung murmured in her ear. He might not take the bait. Relief flickered, then died as she saw him. A man in a blue jacket watching her openly from across the plaza. "Blue jacket," she whispered. 3 o'clock. "I see him," Jung replied, his voice turning hard. "Stay calm." The man began walking toward her. Jane forced her breathing to remain steady. He was 10 feet away when a black van screeched into the plaza, door already sliding open. The man lunged and 2 more appeared from nowhere, grabbing her before she could scream. She fought. Every move Jung had drilled into her. But 3 men were too many. "Jung!" she screamed. Gunfire exploded around her. Civilians ran. Chaos erupted. She clung to the van door frame, but a fist slammed into her ribs, and she lost her grip. Through the chaos, she saw Jung running toward her, face carved with pure murder. Their eyes met for 1 burning second. Then someone shoved her inside. The door slammed. The van peeled away. She saw Jung through the tiny window, still running after her, firing, roaring her name. A bag went over her head. Everything went dark. Inside the warehouse, the bag was ripped away and Jane blinked at the grim emptiness of the space. Standing in front of her was Dong-ho, a colder, older reflection of Jung. "So you're the girl who made my nephew soft," he said in perfect English. "He's going to kill you for this," she shot back. Dong-ho laughed. "Is he? You don't know him like I do." When he ordered a camera set up in front of her, dread twisted through her. "What is that?" "Insurance," he said. "He's tracking the wire. He's watching." "No, don't." He slapped her hard. He lifted a knife. "I'm going to teach him that love is weakness." And just as he raised the blade, the lights went out. Gunfire tore through the dark. Men screamed. Bodies fell. Emergency lights flickered on in red, and Jung stood there, moving through Dong-ho's men like a force of nature. Lethal. Precise. Terrifying. He reached her, cut her restraints. "Are you hurt?" "Behind you," she gasped. He turned and fired without looking. "That's my girl," he breathed when she disarmed another attacker for him. They moved together toward the exit as Jung's team flooded the warehouse. Then Jane saw Dong-ho running. "He's getting away." Jung's face darkened. "Get her out," he told Lee. "Jung, don't leave me." But he was already chasing Dong-ho. Outside, a single gunshot echoed. Silence followed. Jane screamed his name and tried to run toward the warehouse, but Lee held her back. Jung finally appeared in the doorway, covered in blood but alive. She ran to him. "Are you hurt?" "It's not my blood." "Dong-ho?" "It's over." Before he could say more, police sirens approached. "I turned everything in," Jung said. "Every crime, every name. I'm done." At the hospital later, while doctors examined her, Jung returned with exhaustion in his eyes. "Dong-ho is alive," he said. "Barely, but alive. I didn't become him, Jane, because you asked me not to." She felt relief crash through her. "But you," Jung swallowed. "You were shot." She looked down at the bandage she'd barely noticed. "You pushed me out of the way," he whispered, voice breaking. "You took a bullet meant for me." "I love you," she said simply. "That's what you do for people you love." Jung's composure shattered as he buried his face against her hand. I almost lost you, he choked. You didn't. Then he lifted his head, eyes fierce. Marry me? Jane blinked. What? Marry me. I'm not waiting.
Be my wife.
Build a life with me.
Grow old with me.
Marry me. She laughed through tears.
Yes.
Yes, you beautiful, impossible man. Yes. He kissed her, trembling with relief. 6 months later, Jane stood in a simple white dress as Monica adjusted her hair. I still can't believe you're marrying a former Mafia boss, Monica said, smiling. Former, Jane emphasized. Jung had kept his word. The Kong Empire was now clean, legitimate. He had enrolled in architecture school. They had moved into a bright apartment filled with hope. At the ceremony, Jung stood at the altar. His expression when he saw her made her breath catch. Their vows were simple, heartfelt, full of promises to love, protect, and build a new life together. Later, when Jung kissed her, he whispered, "Thank you for that one night." She laughed. "Thank you for never letting me go." 5 years later, their 3-year-old daughter came running across their garden, holding a caterpillar. Jung pretended to be terrified, making the little girl squeal with laughter. Jane watched them with a heart so full it almost hurt. They had built a peaceful life. A beautiful one. Jung's architecture firm thrived. Jane ran a nonprofit supporting domestic violence survivors. They were happy, truly happy. That night, watching the sunset from their porch, Jung asked quietly, "Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" "Not for a second. Not even when you got shot?" "Especially not then," she said. "That's when I knew." "Knew what?" "That I'd take a bullet for you every time." Jung kissed her head. Let's hope it never comes to that again. Their daughter called for another bedtime story, and they went inside together, hand in hand. Jane thought back to that one reckless night that had started everything. One night that had destroyed the life she knew and given her the life she always needed. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is open your heart, and sometimes that danger saves you. Thank you so much for going on this journey with Jane and Jung. If you love this story, smash that like button, subscribe for more amazing stories, and drop a comment telling me what you thought. And remember, sometimes the best love stories start with one reckless decision. See you in the next video.